So I think that we can all agree that practice is helpful. But when it comes to the reading comprehension section, clarity of methods is more helpful. Remember, the key to reading comprehension is getting comfortable with changing how and what you focus on when reading different types of passages. Look, if you have lots of time before you take the test, then the best thing you can do is to read more. But make sure you're reading a variety of material. Read newspapers and magazine articles and make sure they're on a variety of topics. You want to learn to feel comfortable with different kinds of content and with different styles of writing. Now, if you don't have that much time, that's okay. You are going to be okay because the key is getting specific. Breaking down what your mind is doing similarly and differently when you read these different kinds of passages. You want to have that mental list of how you're going to approach the different passages, right? Having a mental list of tasks or things for your mind to focus on while you read will guarantee that you are way less likely to space out while reading, even if the passage does not interest you. So let's review the specific mental tasks for each of the passage types. Okay, when reading a prose or narrative passage, you're going to forget the plot, except for maybe conflicts between characters or decisions made by characters. And you're going to feel for the tone and emotions of the author and the characters. We're going to hear all the words using our brain voice with intonation to help us understand the subtext or meaning behind the words. And we're going to read at a pace that's a little slower that allows you to digest the story. And you should only return to the passage for a few questions. Now to the other end of the spectrum. When reading a natural science passage, we're going to ignore those little details and we're going to focus on the main idea and the passage structure. Remember, it's okay if you don't understand the passage completely. We're going to read at a quicker pace by skimming the passage, which means we only hear with our brain voice the important words or topic sentences, and we mumble through the details. For this passage, we're probably going to return to the passage for quite a few questions. Now, in between the prose and natural science are our two social science and humanities passages, yeah? So when we're reading our social science passage, we're going to skim the passage by hearing the important words with our brain voice, and we're going to constantly check in with ourselves. Am I understanding? And when we need to, we're going to rephrase with our brain voice what the passage just said, right? Simply and in our own words. We're going to focus on the main idea and passage structure while also keeping an eye out for why the author wrote this, right? Is there a bias, right? Is it maybe persuasive or is it just informative? Similarly, when reading a humanities passage, we're going to hear most of the words with our brain voice. We're going to use our intonation to help understand the subtext, and when necessary, we're going to check for understanding by rephrasing the passage in our own words. We're going to focus on the main idea and passage structure while also looking for why the author wrote this. And lastly, when reading those paired passages, first, we're going to look at the passages separately. We're going to consider what type of passages are they? Usually natural science or social science. So this means, right, that we would skim the passage, hearing with our brain voice only the important words, and checking for understanding by rephrasing in our own words dense parts of the passages. We're going to focus on the main idea and passage structure, paying attention to why the author wrote this. But really what we're going to do is we're going to read the first passage, do those things, and then we're going to think of one sentence to summarize the passage. Then we're going to answer the questions for passage 1. Then read the second passage. But this time, right, 2 jobs. We need a sentence that doesn't just summarize the second passage, but also relates it back to the first. Then maybe answer the questions that ask only about the second passage. Now remember, when you're summarizing these passages, honestly, the simpler the sentence, the better, right? The passages are going to agree on some ideas and disagree on others. So your job is to identify how they're connected. So the key here is that reading is active, not passive. Yeah, focus on your mental list of tasks, and you can stay attentive, even when reading a passage that is as dry as burnt toast. Remember, you have got this.